disturbing film, subconsciously as well as, it has a lot of little lines and themes going through it.
I think Sam provoked performances from an actor. He was anti-intellectual.
I don't like nude scenes.
Whether he knew he was doing it or not, he got me back in front of the camera.
I wasn't the perfect person for him. I mean, I was exactly the opposite of what he was.
I've become acclimated now, so you can't get rid of me.
I will not allow violence against this house.
Ride the High Country, that was a beautiful film. He had a couple of kind of what you might think is worn-out Western actors, you know, Joel McRae and Randolph Scott. They came off terrific in that. It was like, I got the feeling they were so glad to get to be a part of a real kind of thing at the end of their career. And Sam made that possible for them.
He truly got across what he felt about the way the West was and how it related to the world we have today.
This was all part of us experiencing a real director in Hollywood fighting the studio system to get the way his picture should be, and they'd cut it down miserably.
We knew we had a problem right from the beginning because of the producer, who didn't understand Sam. Well, who the hell doesn't understand Sam? I don't know.
Stand in einem ständigen Konflikt, in einer ständigen Spannung mit sich selber. Fühlte sich immer beobachtet. War es ja letztendlich auch.
Sein Leben, das war Hunten, Fischen, Lagerfeuer, Gespräche unter Männern, nicht? Jagd. Also war so ein Hemingwayaner, nicht? So ein bisschen so in dieser Macho-Geschichte. Und er war eigentlich ein schmaler Mann, aber auch kein Kerl, so ein schmales Handtuch eigentlich. Zäh.
He shot a film that was truly a beautiful film about a man. And it was taken over by the studio, which Sam thought he had final cut. Of course, he didn't have final cut. His agent told him he did. And Sam played it like he had final cut, but he didn't. They took it away from him. Jerry Bressler cut the film along with Charlton Heston and almost ruined it.
It was an operation that was trumped up, but nevertheless they fired him.
That coupled with what they were saying about him because of Major Dundee made him unhireable.
Not only can't he get a job, they won't let him on the lots. They will not return his phone call, and he sits there for a couple of years.
I was blackballed. I was put down because I talked about people who were dishonest, who cheated, who lied, who stole. I do believe in justice in a man's word. So when it's broken, I have a tendency to stand up and be counted and fight.
If you are lucky enough to do for a living what you like, and then to have the thing shut off, that's what happened with Sam. He was totally creative, crazy, but he was creative, and now it's gone, and he can't do anything. So Danny put the pieces together for him to do Noon Wine.
I admired Ride the High Country enormously. And I'd seen the Westerner only a couple of times, and I said, would you like to do this? And he said, well, yeah. He said, but I got to tell you, I'm blacklisted. You probably don't want to use me. And I said, Sam, it's because you're blacklisted that I want to use you. The very last moment in the story, Olivia de Havilland's part, she's alone in the house. He exits and goes to the barn, and the camera stays on her, and we hear the shotgun off stage. He's killed himself. Sam did take after take with Mr. Haviland, and it wasn't any good. It was fake. It was Hollywood acting. And he did something which I'd never seen done before, or since, I guess. He said to the cameraman, after I say cut, keep the film going, keep the camera going. She did the moment, wasn't very good, and he said, you're the goddamn worst actress I've ever seen. How you got a reputation? Everybody in the production could hear as he destroyed her, and she looked shocked and then devastated, and that's the last moment of the film.
I wrote it as I do all the work that I do. It's something that I want to see from the story that I was given. So I didn't write it to shock the audience. I wrote it as something that I would pay money to see.
These men were on their last legs. What to do next? Oh, by God, they made a big killing over here. They got out of town. They killed a lot of people. But they had the money. And they finally get over there, and what happens? They find out if they open it up, nothing but lead washers. Then one thing leads to another, you know, and we get into an argument again and everything else. But these things all happen one after another. They're so beautifully done. And after the picture was shown in Jamaica, they had a table up there where Sam and Bill Holden and Ben Johnson and Warren Oates and myself were up there. And the very first question out of the box was, why was this picture ever made? Hello? What's the matter? You know, my God, the blood, the violence, the this, the that. And I said, oh, God, you know, what have we done here? I mean, you know, we worked our tails off trying to make a good film, but it just seemed that everybody was against it. And we were terribly hurt. When the picture finally came out, I said, oh boy, we're really gonna get it now. I read the paper and it says, a masterpiece. The one day they tell him, why was this picture ever made? The next day it's a masterpiece. One of the highlights of my kind of career was seeing the 4-hour version of The Wild Bunch in Phoenix, Arizona. I remember we all went over. And this was a film about character. This was a film about people. This was, you know, each person had their own personalities, but people tend to forget that, you know, when they talk about you know, the slow motion stuff and all that.
It was brought to me by Warren Oates. We had a 36-day schedule. We were rained out 21 days.
It rained incessantly, and the picture is a story about a man that is dying of thirst in the desert.
When it rained, it seemed like 8 days in a stretch, and we were stranded in that hotel.
So people did get bored, and you know, and so they played touch football and threw footballs around or did whatever and destroyed things and threw things out the window.
A hell of an experience for 8 weeks out there on that hotel motel thing right on the edge of the lake. I mean, the parties and the fucking and everything that went on was incredible. There's a couple of girls. Oh, I told the thing. I better not say it. I mean.
It was because of all these people and the story, which was really more representative of how Sam thought than any picture except Ride to High Country. He liked to laugh at things if no one was around to catch him at it.
Had Cable Hogue have been a successful film, as it should have been, Sam Peckinpah's career would have taken a different turn. Look at Cable Hogue, and you'll see that he had more in his armory than violence, which was never allowed to develop, in my opinion, although he did try. I mean, he did make non-violent pictures, but somehow that is the legacy that people think that Sam Peckinpah has left.
They released it on Easter Sunday, I think. It disappeared, and I left Warner Brothers.
Okay, you've had your fun. I'll give you one more chance. And if you don't clear out now, there'll be real trouble.
I had a fall in Rome when I was filming something else. Both my feet were smashed. Sam invited me to be in Straw Dogs. I hadn't seen him. He hadn't seen me in hospital. I think he knew I was in hospital. And I said, but Sam, I don't know if I'm going to walk again. I don't know what's happening, because by that I was still learning to walk. And he said, you'll get out of bed and you'll be in the picture. You're going to, you know, we can play this character anyway, because as it turns out, the character could have been any kind of physical thing. And actually, that gave me the impetus to really learn to walk again. The fact that Sam had asked me, I mean, he said, you're going to get out of that bed. I mean, I don't want to make it sound biblical, but I mean, he said, you'll get out of that bed and you'll walk and you'll get in front of the camera again. So I learned to walk, and I was able to do the film with the sticks and special shoes that they made for me. And so, whether he knew he was doing it or not, he got me back in front of the camera and dispelled a lot of rumors about me and this accident I had by employing me. Rumors got about that, you know, I was uninsurable because of, you know, sort of drugs and etc., which is not the truth. Anyway, but Sam, you know, said, David, you are uninsurable, but I don't care. I trust you.
What was so funny was that during Straw Dogs, everybody fell ill with some kind of bug, and I don't know what it was, including Sam, and lots of people, not just Peckinpah. A lot of people were ill on that production, except me. So when the people from the insurance company arrived down on location on the train, a lot of people were in bed back at the hotel. I was standing there on the platform with my sticks, saying, "Welcome to Cornwall."
This house behind me here is Trenchard's Farm. It's the temporary home of an American professor, David Sumner, and his wife, Amy. They've come over to Britain and come to Cornwall, where they find themselves faced with the perhaps justifiable hostility that Cornish people always are credited to have towards foreigners. At least that's the story of this. They try to interfere with what the local Cornish regard as their affair. Well, the local Cornish people take the law into their own hands. Hence the title of the book, The Siege of Trenchard's Farm.
I think he truly was genius in many ways as a director. And I just, I guess I was thinking about wanting the quality to be wonderful, but I also wanted the opportunity to work with him because I admired him. So I thought Ride the High Country was an extraordinary film because of my interest in the West, but far beyond that because of what Sam did.
Gordon Williams, who wrote the book upon which this film is based, has complained publicly that the film is nothing like the book. How do you answer, as a director, criticisms like that?
I think Mr. Williams has a penchant for his own work. I don't.
He just got to England when I started working for him. He had someone working for him in LA called Wendy Winter, and she was going to come with him, and at the very last minute she decided not to come. So he came on his own and had to start looking for someone else. And that's when James Swan, who was the associate producer on the film, started calling around to try and find people for him. And he had about 4 or 5 people that worked for him in the 2 weeks prior to me starting. He called me, I wasn't available, and he went through about 4 or 5 different people. I don't know, it just fell into place. I think the fact that I could read his writing, the fact that I seemed to understand where his mind was working, was one of the reasons why he felt, I suppose, it was in the unspoken word that he did feel comfortable, because it's, I didn't leave for 8 years. I wasn't the perfect person for him. I mean, I was exactly the opposite of what he was. Backgrounds were different, experience was different, values, philosophies, principles were different, but we just seemed to click, which was very unusual.
You haven't had exactly the best kind of weather, certainly not today. Would you come back to Cornwall to make another picture?
No, I intend to come back here to live. I leased a house here.
May we ask where?
Just down the road, about 2.5 miles.
Will you be living here very much, or?
I hope so. I like it here very much.
Well, maybe welcome you to the West Country, Mr. Peckinpah.
I adore it. I like it. I even like the weather.
Thank you very much.
Despite the fact that I almost died of pneumonia here, I become acclimated now, so you can't get rid of me.
Logistically, it was a very difficult picture to work on, because it was, first of all, it was absolutely freezing.
It is cold. It's a little warmer for me than I would be if I were in New York now, because they're having the coldest winter they've ever had.
A lot of night shooting. The actual physical elements were fighting against us having a sort of an easy shoot.
Dustin, you really epitomise the young actor of the 1970s. How sort of sensitive are you to this? How obvious does this seem to you?
It seemed only obvious, I guess, after The Graduate, because the part I played was of a young man. Since then, it seems less obvious to me the more I work and the older I get. Right now, I'm almost 34, so I don't feel that I represent the youth.
Up the set, please. And Susan, George, urgently. Lights going. Need them. Over.
Dustin is the quintessential internal, quote, method actor. And I think that Sam's approach to directing wasn't the Kazan, the internal way at all. I think Sam provoked performances from an actor. He was anti-intellectual, which is not to say that he wasn't very, very smart, and but when he wanted to really put me down, he would say, "You're just a goddamn New York intellectual Jew." That was, so he wasn't comfortable talking about what's my motivation. If someone asked him that, he would say, because you're getting a paycheck, hit your mark, turn right, turn left, next shot. And that, of course, was a big problem for Dustin, who liked to have lots of conversation about every scene, every moment, so that when we were doing one of the earliest shots, at the last moment, Dustin went to Sam to ask him something about the scene, and Sam said, "Just get in there and do your number, kid." And Dustin looked at me and said, "Do my number?"
I don't like nude scenes. I have only ever done one which was comparatively nude, and that was only a back shot of me, and that was when I was 17. I feel I was much less inhibited then than I am now, and so now it means more to me than it did then. I don't particularly like the idea. It depends where and when, as I say.
Dustin in the beginning was, very close to her, and they were, together all the time, and he was relating to her, and Sam was relating to her as the character David related to the character Amy.
David? What's a binary number?
Zeros or ones, plus or minus.
In sequences of twos.
Hey, that's right. You're a bright lady. You're not so dumb.
Sometimes I need help.
When?
Like, now, maybe?
And as their marriage started to have the strain, they started behaving to her in the same way that, with the strain and the hostility, and she was, and I finally went to Sam and I said, "You can't treat a human being this way." And he said, I'm getting the performance." I said, "There's got to be another way, Sam." I don't know at what point he started doing it, because he didn't when we did Nude Wine together. And he would throw it at the set, and once when I had to replace something in a hurry, I didn't know what to do. And then I started carrying on the prop truck unfinished doors that we would buy from a door store. So we would put the door up against the set. So he would throw at that, and I saved the set from destruction.
I think that was Sam's way of sort of, relaxing. He liked throwing knives. I suppose if he had a gun with bullets in it, it was target practice for him. He did it all the time, to the point when we had his 50th birthday, Ringo Starr and Keith Moon and Bob Dylan bought him a door as a gift for his birthday for throwing knives. We shot a lot of the exteriors weeks and weeks and weeks before the interiors, and the interiors had to match the exteriors, and technology wasn't the way it is now, and you had to rely on the written word, and it was a complex shoot. And then when we were shooting the exteriors, what the house was from the exterior was far smaller than what really was going on when we built it, so it was sort of feasible to shoot in it. So there's a lot of matching problems, and there was a lot of logistical problems.
Go on. Yell out if you see them come around the front.
We then had a horrendous problem with the editor of the film. Sam and I decided to go with him because he had edited for David Lean. And what recommendation more do you need than that? Well, he came to me when the first day's dailies had come back from the lab, and he said, Sam doesn't know what he's doing. This film won't cut together. And I said, what are you talking about? Nonsense. He certainly knows if I've worked with him. He said, I'm telling you, we're not going to cut, in a very effete English accent. 2 days later, I get a call from the head of the studio. The editor had called him and said, Peckinpah doesn't know what he's doing. This film won't cut. And I had to rush Sam and I to cut a sequence to prove to them that it would cut. And that's how Roger Spottiswoode ended up being the editor.
We don't want any trouble here, do we?
There wouldn't have been any trouble if you put Henry Niles away.
You want to put my hammer away soon enough? Damn you, Hedden, give me that gun.
Damn you, Major. Let go!
That's interesting because there's, all the guys, Peter Vaughan, such a sweet and charming and lovely guy. There he is running around. That's what's so funny, all the kind of there were a couple of actors there who really got into it. I'm not talking about the rape scene. I'm just talking about the whole idea of the bashing into the house. But when people like Peter Vaughan and some of the other actors, so charming and so gentle and so kind of unaggressive, playing in Straw Dogs. It just again shows, it shows what, the actors give to it and everything, as well as Sam, of course.
Where are you? You dumb rat catcher! I'll wrap this spike round your neck! Die! Yeah.
He knew or recognized what was, he would go through as many takes as necessary to get those moments of truthfulness. And I think that's one of the things that distinguishes a good film from a bad film.
Charlie. You put him to sleep. I'll call you when I'm ready.
He inspired loyalty in people that was extraordinary.
Just do it, Charlie.
I have never met Ernest Borgnine. I've never met Chris Christopherson, except I saw him on an airplane. And of course, you know, he'd worked with Sam, and but we'd never met. And we just looked at each other. And it's as if we had known each other all our lives by the mere fact that we'd both been in a film by Sam Peckinpah. It's the most extraordinary thing that if you'd worked with Sam, you were part of some kind of, I don't know, brotherhood or fellowship or something. It's very, very hard to explain. The character that T.P. McKenna plays has his arm in a sling. And in one of the analysis of Sam's work, they make a kind of, I don't know what it is, they make a comment about the fact that my character, Niles, can't walk properly, and another character's got his arm in a sling, and this is some kind of echo of the impotence of Dustin Hoffman's character, and it goes on like that. Well, of course, I'd had my accident, and Sam brought me back, but if I hadn't have had the accident, I think he would still have asked me, so I would have been walking normally. And without going into too many details, there was a pre-film party in which somebody fell on top of a table on top of T.P. McKenna, and that's why his arm's in a sling. And it's had nothing to do with the impotence of Dustin Hoffman whatsoever. I mean, but it's wonderful the way that people do write in these things and analyze, sometimes over-analyze.
Maybe I was too close to the picture, but in his so-called killing of these people, I never wanted him to, nor did I ever have a thought that he was enjoying what he was doing. Because he certainly didn't, and he didn't project that. But Pauline Kael thought he did, and she thought he just was having a ball.
Jesus. I got them all.
And I thought I came over, but it didn't for Pauline. She was very upset about the treatment of women and that. We were driving out to make the last shot and trying to figure out a way to end the picture. So we were rehearsing in the car. I asked David, what is your line? And David says, I don't know my way home. I said, and you don't either, to Dustin.
I don't know my way home.
It's okay.
And that's your line. He said, yeah, but I can smile a little. I said, okay.
I don't either.
So it's kind of a sad smile, I thought. Thought it worked all right.
Okay, you've had your fun. I'll give you one more chance. And if you don't clear out now, there'll be real trouble.
I will not allow violence against this house.
Sam Peckinpah, who uncaged the Wild Bunch, now unleashes Dustin Hoffman in Straw Dogs.
But of course, the most wonderful thing about Straw Dogs is the controversy about it, because had it have taken place in a Mexican village or whatever, that would have been totally acceptable. Those people can do it, but not in an English place. You know? And of course, at the same time, there was the whole thing about Clockwork Orange versus Straw Dogs, and the writer of Straw Dogs coming out and saying, well, this is going to, you know, unleash people coming and attacking farmhouses and doing all that, you know. And Clockwork Orange, you know, is a fine piece of work, but Clockwork Orange is, you know, a nice intellectual, you know, sort of statement. Well, of course, as we know, people went around dressed like Malcolm and all those guys bashing up old ladies. Straw Dogs, nobody did anything.
disturbing film, subconsciously as well as, I mean, it has a lot of little lines and themes going through it. One psychiatrist said to me, "How did you know?" I didn't answer. He was my own psychiatrist, so whom I hadn't seen for a long time.
I always felt that he was perhaps the last man making movies who had both guts and integrity.
It just seemed to click, which was very unusual.
I've been part of something quite important in the film business because I had that opportunity of working with Sam. It was wonderful, difficult, frustrating, painful, but I sit back here and feel very, very privileged to have had the opportunity.